We started out talking about it very quietly because it's kind of a wacky idea. It's never been done before.
This wacky idea? An artificial bat cave. It may be the best hope for millions of animals threatened by a mysterious fungus.
Natural gas development in western Colorado has taken off exponentially. We have to communicate to the public where that energy comes from.
You've heard of fracking. Now find out how it's really impacting Colorado residents.
You just can't put a gas well in the middle of an organic orchard. I don't want benzene in my apple juice.
One of the coolest things about having llamas, you can bring that extra bottle of wine.
These strong and quirky hiking partners can really lighten the load, so campers can go a little further and see a lot more scenery in style. And ever wonder what a billion of anything might look like? Then have a look at these monarch butterflies at their winter retreat. Those stories and more. This American Land takes flight now. Funding for This American Land provided by the Weiss Foundation, the Pew Charitable Trusts, and the Turner Foundation.
Hello and welcome to This American Land. I'm Bruce Burkhart with a great lineup of stories on conservation of America's landscapes, waters, and wildlife.
And I'm Caroline Ravel here in the gorgeous southern Appalachian Mountains of Tennessee, where we start off right here with a story about a bold project to save America's bat population from the killer disease white nose syndrome. Corey Holliday of the Nature Conservancy takes us to a unique bat cave.
When bats go into hibernation, their bodies shut down. They're going months at a time on very little energy. They have really no immune response to anything. So this fungus sort of attacks them, and these bats come in. They're a great mass of living tissue and cells, and it's a perfect food source. It's likely to shape out to be the worst wildlife disaster of our lifetimes.
This is an artificial cave, and very simply, it's designed as a mitigation project for bats to protect them from a disease called white nose syndrome. This property that we're on is now owned by the state of Tennessee, and they've been a great partner with us. We've worked pretty closely with the Fish and Wildlife Service. Bats need something to hold on to. We're in this poured concrete structure that has relatively smooth walls. We have some bats that are crevice-dwelling bats, and we've installed these panels to give them small crevices to get under. We have different grades of mesh on the walls. We have our coarsest is this sort of chicken wire-sized plastic mesh. We have some fine screening in the back. We're just going to see which the bats prefer.
These cold, damp caves, this fungus just flourishes.
So we've tried to keep everything synthetic. There's no absorbent qualities to them. When we come in to decontaminate the cave, they should clean up pretty easily and won't harbor any of the fungus. We're right next to a large graybat cave. In wintertime has about 160,000 graybats that hibernate in it. They tend to arrive around mid-October, and they arrive in large numbers, and they breed and swarm around the cave entrances. Our plan is to broadcast calls of sort of the same typical fall swarming of these bat species from this entrance, and we're hopeful it'll attract them in. We started out talking about it very quietly because it's kind of a wacky idea. It's never been done before. But the more people we talked about, sort of the world's experts, the more it seemed the best potential strategy to combat white nose syndrome. And everybody seems to love the idea. Bats have an incredible parental care. Females have their young in the spring after they come out of hibernation, and they'll be with them for up to 3 months. They're a critical part of our natural world, and we all depend on bats. Bats are the only major predator of night-flying insects. We've done a tremendous amount of research. Everyone we've consulted thinks that it at least has potential for success. Being able to claim success, I think, is several years out.
Recently, the oil and gas industry has made some major advances in extracting natural gas from oil shale deposits across the country. They do it with a process called hydraulic fracturing, or fracking, pumping fluid chemicals deep underground under high pressure, cracking the shale to release the gas. It's a controversial process with obvious environmental risk. In western Colorado, there's a boom in gas drilling, and we sent our crew to Garfield County to find out how people living there feel about fracking.
We're standing in the heart of the Piceance Basin. It contains vast quantities of natural gas. Hydraulic fracturing is a process where they inject sand and chemicals and water into ancient formations under pressure. That pressure cracks the rock. The sand props those cracks open and allows the gas to flow back through those cracks into the wellbore. You can crack these rocks in half, and with a butane lighter, light them on fire. That's the energy potential that's within these rocks.
There is some sort of toxic spill on every single gas pad. We can drive around, we can look. This is an injection well. A truck just pulled up and he's going to pump toxic waste into the ground right now. Right next to a creek and a farm. What's in the truck there?
Natural gas development in western Colorado has taken off exponentially.
I live here on this ranch in western Colorado. The development in this area since 2003 has been pretty aggressive, particularly in light of the known, documented, and ongoing impacts to the environment.
I was a pump hand for a contractor. Now that I know what was going on and the harm that, that process causes, it really bothers me to know that we were pumping raw flowback directly to a drilling rig. There are rules that state that you can't use diesel fuel to drill with. Well, if it's not been processed and classified as diesel fuel, then it's not diesel fuel.
Western Colorado is going to be an important part of energy independence that we earn over the next decade. We do have impacts.
The footprint that the oil and gas industry is putting on Colorado and other states is huge. It looks like a checkerboard of pads everywhere.
I'm totally surrounded, and the pad that I have on my property is right here in the corner, but I had to fight to get it to go in the corner instead of the middle of my land. There's one tank that's got oil in it, pulls it out of the natural gas stream, and the other 4 for production water. And then over there are the metering sheds, which actually meter the gas out. The gas goes from there and comes across here and up a pipeline and out of the property. The oil and gas impacts just about everything. The number of neighbors I've got, the number of people who travel this road has, I used to get maybe a dozen or 2 during a day. Well, now I get several hundred a day.
This used to be public land. You could go here, you could hunt here, you could fish here. You can't go here now. It's leased land. You're trespassing if you go over there.
We're not opposed to drilling per se, but we're opposed to do it in a way that harms individuals and the environment. I tried to build in the State House this year that didn't work. The original, I'm the co-chair of the Battlement Concerned Citizens. There are people in our organization who would not like to see gas drilling anywhere within 100 miles of where they live. That's not been our official stance, but that wherever it's done properly.
Right over here along this green belt here where the trees are is Parachute Creek. It's been contaminated from a spill that happened.
It was coursing with extraordinarily high levels of benzene. We'd experienced an incredible seep that continues to this day into the shallow groundwater.
It's important to keep in mind that there's over 200,000 people within the communities of the Piceance Basin. By and large, Their experience with the natural gas sector has been a positive one that results in jobs and prosperity.
Most of the folks who are making the decisions are, in my case, in Oklahoma. They aren't even participating in our property taxes and that kind of thing to the degree that would normally be done.
The heart of Colorado's oil and gas industry has cut down to 4 days a week of their schooling because they don't have the funding to pay for the schools and the teachers. Where's all the great money that, is going to create all of these opportunities for our children?
The demand for energy in the United States is great. We have to communicate to the public where that energy comes from, that electricity doesn't come from a switch, but that it comes from the men and women and people who work in communities like ours to produce energy in a way that's affordable.
This technology, if it is not stopped, I believe will destroy this planet.
I would really like to see a lot stiffer regulation. I know we need oil and gas for the type of lifestyle that we live in right now.
This area is where I grew up. It's just, my home and where I intend to live the rest of my life.
I'd really like to see some accountability. So far they can go pretty much do whatever they want and they're not fined. As soon as the oil and gas companies come into your area, it's taken over. You don't have a say anymore.
In other parts of Colorado where energy companies are considering drilling for gas, there's a growing opposition among residents who know what's happened with fracking in places like Garfield County. Recently, as a result of public outcry, the federal government actually canceled a scheduled auction of oil and gas leases on public lands in Colorado's North Fork Valley. And we went there to find out why.
The North Fork Valley is just a real fertile little island. It's like this little tropical island in the middle of the dry desert of western Colorado. The highest concentration of organic farms in Colorado. It's really a tremendously beautiful, amazing place for recreation. It's a really great tourist destination. So we have an existing industry that would be absolutely, completely destroyed if you brought in the industry of gas and oil development.
You don't get that kind of food, agriculture, tourism in an environment where you've got trucks with fracking chemicals going back and forth and you have a lot of industrial activity. It just isn't going to happen.
My name's Landon Dean from Eagle Butte Ranch in Paonia, Colorado. We raise natural grass-fed beef. The gas companies started moving into the area about 1.5 years ago, and they asked the BLM to put some parcels up to be leased. I think that there's places where you grow food and there's places where you develop energy, and this is a place where we grow food. This valley feeds all of western Colorado and Denver and a lot of places nationally.
The increased risk of surface contamination would effectively destroy us. Hi, girls. Come on, Buzz. My name's Eugenie McGuire. We raise black Welsh mountain sheep here in Paonia, Colorado. Do you want to come say hello? That's Melinda. The community's beliefs and the community's economic base are being totally ignored on the altar of we need gas for energy independence.
You just really can't put a gas well in the middle of an organic orchard. I don't know about you, but I don't want benzene in my apple juice.
It's not just, well, it's not in my backyard. No, is there a real economy that's happening? My name's Marley Hodson. My wife and I own and run Smith Fork Ranch in Crawford, Colorado.
What did you do? Rent a car? Yeah.
This is not an area where it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. It's right smack in the middle of all of our food production.
One of the areas that's been planned for drilling is if you look out across to the mountains there, that whole slope below Mount Lamborn is included. Over there, just behind P Hill is included. There's another spot back around there. We would be totally surrounded. Best estimates are it would be somewhere between 10 to 20 years of gas available in this valley To get that 20 years worth of gas, you're going to destroy 120 years worth of agriculture.
Well, it can create jobs and it can kill jobs too, the jobs that are already here. Is that a worthwhile trade-off?
Everybody came together on this. And I think it was because we hit it so hard and so fast in the beginning that so far we've been successful. At this stage of the game, we're waiting for BLM to update their resource management plan with the hopes that the new plan would show that most of the areas were unsuitable for gas and oil development. Letters and comments do work. This is a valley of about 2,500 people. We got 3,000 comments right off the bat. And that was pretty amazing. If you can get on it early with your community, you can get things turned back around.
I am definitely not against oil and gas development. Fully understand its importance on a national scale. I think that you pick your places where the gas drilling can do the most good and the least harm. Here, I think it do an enormous amount of harm.
It's just one of those special places that once you start to develop, it's lost forever.
One of the great benefits of protecting America's natural wild resources is the enjoyment we get from camping and hiking. But as we get older, let's face it, it's a little more difficult to carry around all that heavy camping gear in your back. But there's a way to deal with that and avoid the aches and pains if you're lucky enough to find a llama outfitter, as we see in this story produced by Jewel Gilfillan for Oregon Field Guide.
And then you're going to sit back there, Kathy, and tell us if it's straight and equal on both sides or level. And
Chris Cruz Cooper and her sister Kathy Koenig grew up camping and hiking together. But this time, they're trying something brand new.
I've been telling people for most of the year, I'm going to go backpacking with a llama.
And people look at us like we're crazy.
Wonderful. Yeah. And they go,
I haven't gotten anybody that said, "Can I come with you?"
I hope my knees hold out. Ready to go, huh?
While Chris and Kathy may still be on the fence, Monica Drost and her friends have been hiking with llamas since they turned 50.
We couldn't carry the heavy packs that we needed to carry anymore. So we researched about llamas carrying all our gear and just kind of stumbled on Sherry's ranch.
That was a few years ago now, and Sherry is Sherry Halligan,
23-7,
a Central Oregon llama outfitter and trail guide.
There's two places a llama should be, beside you or behind you, never in front of you. And as you know, I'm not pulling on it.
After a brief Llama 101,
and when I stop, he should stop.
Sherry leads the group to the Whitewater Trailhead.
Llamas ho!
And the 5-mile trip to Jefferson Park on the north side of Mount Jefferson.
Llamas are good on trails because of the way their feet are structured. They do not have a hoof like many people think. They have a padded foot with 2 toes so that they're able to dig those toes into the rocky terrain or snow. Just pick your steps nice and easy.
Depending on size, llamas can also carry between 50 and 65 pounds for hours, uphill, without complaint, and take a hiker into an entirely new world.
Good boy.
One look at the area's lush meadows, clear blue lakes, and stunning views of the mountain, and it's easy to see how Jefferson Park got its name.
It's worth the hike. Very much worth the hike. All the uphill, all the dust.
Once the llamas are unloaded, they're staked out for the night.
Good boy.
Where they browse like deer and chew their cud like cows.
They browse so they don't just munch down one spot terribly. Plus their feces doesn't have any weeds in it, so it blends in with all the deer and the elk. One of the coolest things about having llamas pack you in to somewhere is that you can bring that extra bottle of wine, or hey, you can have lawn chairs, you can have wine glasses, and you can have tables, and you can bring in a little luxury if you desire.
Digging down.
Digging in there.
Never starve on these trips.
Morning brings another perfect summer day. And after breakfast, the group heads north for a day trip across the park and up the Pacific Crest Trail.
Love to go wandering beneath the clear blue sky.
After a couple more miles up the trail and one last steep ascent to the ridge top, the group is rewarded with more stunning views of the park below.
Grouping at our feet, Mount Jefferson. Good job, boys. Good job, ladies. Great llama handling. I have found that my llamas all have different personalities, just like people. Some of them are very quiet. They've just got that attitude and that aura, like they know what's going on. They're wise. And some of them are just kind of quirky. They're an independent animal, and so you have to go at it with, okay, listen here, I'm going to be boss, and I will respect you, and I won't hurt you, but I need you to do what I want you to do. Excuse me, buddy, hold on. Hold on. There we go. I know. I know. I know. I can get teary-eyed when I think about some of the things they do for me when I ask them to, and it's hard, but they do it. It's because that's who they are. That's my boy. They got heart. Down, I got it.
As their first llama trip winds up, Chris and Kathy seem sold.
It has been perfect. Beautiful. We really couldn't ask for anything nicer.
Yeah, I'm just grateful to still be able to do this.
And llamas helped us do it, because we wouldn't be doing it on our own.
No, we wouldn't have done it. We couldn't have done it without the llamas.
We couldn't have carried in that stove
50
for
pounds
that
apiece.
fried eggs and bacon. And,
Yeah. I think that's what a lot of older backpackers are still wanting to enjoy or feel. So they're still saying, I need to get out there, but I can't carry my stuff anymore. And that's why llamas can help.
Oh, wow.
You need to try it before you quit going into the wilderness.
Each year, billions of monarch butterflies travel hundreds of miles to their wintering site in Mexico. Miles O'Brien reports in this Science Nation story how researchers are studying a range of threats that affect this amazing migration.
It amazes me that insects that weigh half a gram can live so long and travel so far.
Up to 2 billion monarch butterflies migrate every year to winter in Mexico. That's where ecologist Sonia Altizer goes to get a good look at them.
Male, 51.55.
With support from the National Science Foundation, Altizer and her team study how long-distance migration in flying animals affects the spread and evolution of infectious disease. In monarchs, they study a parasite.
So adult butterflies that are really heavily infected will look like this one. So this is a protozoan parasite called Ophrys electroscira, OE for short.
This flying treadmill in her lab at the University of Georgia tracks speed and stamina.
On average, infected monarchs fly about 20% less well than healthy butterflies.
We all know human diseases can spread quickly. It only takes one infected person hopping on an airplane. But for insects and birds, long-distance travel often means lower infection rates. Perhaps only the strong survive?
If we had to run a marathon with the flu, we probably wouldn't do very well. The animals that are the most heavily infected simply drop out of this migration en route to their wintering sites, and they simply can't make the long-distance journey.
But human activities like habitat destruction and herbicide use are disrupting some of these long-standing migration patterns.
If we take the migration away and we're left with smaller remnant populations that don't migrate, we could actually see infections build up in those populations, and that could possibly increase the risk of pathogens jumping over into people and their domesticated animals.
In Peru, Altizer's team studies vampire bats. Their populations have exploded as ranchers have introduced livestock into the Andes and the Amazon. And more bloodthirsty bats might mean more rabies.
One of the main goals we have is to try to understand what determines the frequency and intensity of rabies outbreaks. And what can we do about it?
Altizer also analyzes data and parasite samples sent in from citizen scientists around the world. Her aim is to piece together the big picture of how pathogens spread when their hosts take wing.
Now a quick look at a story we're working on for a future show. Marine biologists are testing a new device to increase the survival of fish caught as bycatch by sport fishermen. We'll see how it's working.
Thanks for joining us for This American Land. And remember, you can catch us anytime at thisamericanland.org. We'd love to hear your comments and your ideas for stories that you think we should cover. We'll see you next time.
For more information about this program, visit thisamericanland.org. Funding for This American Land provided by the Weiss Foundation, the Pew Charitable Trusts, and the Turner Foundation.